Hey everyone, welcome back. This is Lydia. She's beautiful, elegant, long and sleek. This is a traditional bezel frame using three 18-gauge wires that are 12 inches each. And I'm excited to show you this very simple, very elegant design. And they're quick, right? So if you are enjoying this for yourself, you'll love it. If you're making this for business, it's a great bread and butter design. Once you get it, it's quite fast. You know, once it's over, you'll just nudge all the wires, make sure that you've got, two side wires on each side. Sometimes you have to kind of get your fingernail underneath there and scooch it all over and make sure that these wires are riding up the front elegant. But I've patinaed and polished this one and she just is gorgeous. I really love this simple and elegant design. Once it's done and you know the pattern, I would say you could probably accomplish these wraps in under an hour, right? So anyway, I hope you enjoy making Lydia, you guys. I love her and I think it's a fun project, and I will see you on the other side. Thanks, enjoy. I'm starting with 3 pieces of 18 gauge square copper wire, and it's soft. You'd be using half hard if you wanted to, but I prefer soft. My cabochon is teardrop shape. It's 1 and just shy of 3/4 inches long and about a 1/2 inch wide, maybe just a smidge more than a 1/2 inch wide. I've taped the to help me hold them while I work. My square wires are side by side and the flat sides are facing me. They're not twisted or up on their points. You could be using round wire as well. My banding wire is 22 gauge half round wire and I have 10 inches of it. I'm going to go ahead and just get to the approximate middle of my 22 gauge half round, and I'll straddle my center point that I've marked on my square frame wires. I'm going to wrap moving to the right with half of this wire, and I'm going to start just by making 7 or 8 wraps. There's 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. I'm keeping my wraps nice and side by side. I'm not letting them overlap the previous wrap. And I'm to the right hand side of my center mark. So I just flip my wire over and I'll make another 7 wraps on this side. I'll just pull and straighten out that first one to take any weird turns out of it. And then I'll do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. I'll end these wraps with both of these wires to the opposite side of this frame, so they're both on the same side. Let's tap everything. I like to work with my tape flaps up, so I'm just going to turn it back in this direction. So once you get your 14 or 16 wraps, you're just going to end these 2 fragments in the back of the wire, and you'll end them both to the same side here so that the cut ends will go up against the stone or to the inside of the frame. Just tap that. And here's the front side of the frame. So I'll get my chain nose plier and I'll go 7 of them in, about midway there in the middle, and I'll make bend in this wire. Just tap both sides, get a nice even bend. You can adjust 1 or 2 of these wraps if you didn't quite get it in the middle like me. This one's a little shorter than this one now, so I'll just, instead of rebending my wire, which is difficult to do, I'll just cheat a little bit by unraveling one of the wraps on this side. and making these even. So that's a little trick you can do if you don't quite get the middle of that. Okay, so the bend, if I put this down on my stone, I want there to be probably 5 millimeters or so, a nice distance between the bottom of my stone and the point. So I'm actually going to make this a little deeper. So I'll reposition my plier. I might work a little bit better than the chain nose plier, because the chain nose are a little more slanted and tapered, but it still works. You just have to tap all the sides. All right, to get a nice even bend. Then when I put this down here, I'm about 1/4 of an inch away from the bottom of the stone, and that's about what I want to be. I want some room down there to bring wires down and be able to tuck them through. So you can do this with your hands, or you can do this down here on the board. If you do it on the board, my little trick is to put a spot of tape on the back of the stone to help it hold steady on the board while you work the wires around it. So I'll get a spot of tape. Don't let the tape be bigger than the stone. Turn it inside out so it's sticky out. Whoop. And then just put it on the bottom of your stone. Set your stone down on your measure, or, make a 90-degree mark so you have a nice centered stone. If you're on your board, you can use these side marks and visualize, where it's most center, and certainly put your point on center. Make sure the stone is really down. The tape will want to raise it a little bit, so just hold steady. So with pressure down on the stone, I've got my finger braced on this wire. I've got the point bottom center. I'm going to turn this entire stack of wires and cross over the top center. While I'm here, I'll double check to make sure I'm still centered at the bottom, and I am. I'll go ahead and put my pliers right here and just turn those wires 90 degrees up. Okay? And then from there, you can go ahead and turn this side, hold the stone steady, hold the point steady, form the wires around the stone. And just up here, either with your fingers, or if you can't do it, you can take your pliers and just bring it together about 1 millimeter or 2 just above your stone. Don't crush down too hard on the tip of the stone. And I'm just going to tap backwards a little bit, bring the wires back together so I got a nice straight line straight up the center of my stone, and that's good. You can remove some of the tape here, not all of it, but just get off the neck, because we're going to wrap the neck a little bit. So I'm going to move this one a little bit. I didn't put it far enough towards the end. I'll just use some of the fragment of the tape, put it up here a little bit higher, and help me hold these wires together. So now I'll get 16 inches of the 22 gauge half round wire for banding up the top of the veil. You could certainly weave the veil if you want. I'm just using my fingers to lightly straighten out the wire. I've got the flat side down, put a 1-inch bend in it. I'll take my frame wires. My stone is symmetrical, so it doesn't really matter which direction, but if your stone's a little bit off symmetry, it might matter which side is up. I'll hook my 1-inch over the neck, hold them together side by side so that all 6 wires are side by side evenly. You can just make 2 or 3 over and underhanded wraps to get all these wires together. Be careful of the half round on your fingers. Pull this all the way down to the neck. So I've got about 4 nice wraps there. Take my pliers, I just do a little tapping to make sure those are nice and tight. And I'll just fit my stone again into the frame to make sure that it still fits in there nicely, and it does. Reshape my wires if necessary, put your point back down on the line if necessary, and I'll just take my stone up off the tape now. So it should look kind of like this. And you can also remove the tape up here. Part these wires slightly and remove the tape. Just like that. Just take your time, be patient. Okay. If it starts to unravel a little bit right there, just take that short one and pull tight. And these will just be a little wobbly until we get more done here. So this is the top. I'll go to the back of my stone or my frame. So I'll just go to the back of my stone, right at the bands there. And you can use any plier, your chain nose or your flats. I'm holding the curve and I'm just going to turn and bring that wire in slightly. Do the same on this side. You can use your chain nose as well. Just get right off the bands a couple of millimeters and try to make them even. Hold on to your curves. Whoop. And just turn the wire inward. Nice and flat. So now we have a little back seat for the stone. Put your stone back into place. You might have to jiggle the wires slightly to get it fit back into place. You can jiggle these wires back here to make sure you're truly on the back side of the stone, and these other pair of wires can be down the sides, just like that. The top of mine's a little bit wonky, that's okay. Just straighten it out. Be careful for your half round, just keep that all under control. Don't be too tight on the tip of your stone. I'm probably approaching a little tighter than I want it to be, but it'll still work. So here on the sides now, we'll make sure that the two side wires are up, on the actual sides of the stone. This one too, even if you have to pull them forward slightly like I did. Now we'll raise the upper one slightly and just get it over the soft shoulder of your stone. Just down here, mostly around this curve. You can put a hard turn in it like that one if you choose to, or you can just do a real minimal capture on it just by parting these wires and bringing this front one a little bit more on top of the stone. And then you'll just push the excess wire towards the top. It kind of looks like that. Okay? Try to make both sides even. And like I said, if you want to do a hard turn like we did in the back, you can certainly do that. And just manage the neck as you work and try to keep your half round from twisting as you work. Mine is about to twist here and I'm just going to get it under control. Okay, so that's pretty good. We can get rid of this short fragment right here. Mine probably doesn't have enough to go all the way around, so I'm going to cut it off kind of back here. We're going to cover the neck. So leave the long fragment on, just cut the short one so that it's sitting along the side of the neck there, so nice and secure. And I've got the wire from right here, just over the soft shoulder of the stone on both sides. Okay, so for the top, once we're here, we're going to start to part these wires out. And what we'll do is we'll make the front two be the bail wires, so you can pull them out forward. Try to keep them side by side if you're working square wires, and try to keep the neck wraps nice and secure while you're doing this. Just pull them forward, part them out, keep them side by side. If they start to turn on you and go, you know, like the tips want to go up rather than staying square, just get it right there at the base, turn them square so that they meet up side by side. Just right there at the base of the neck. Okay, we're going to wrap those. Just keep your half round in order. If you can get them to 90 degrees, great. However it's comfortable. Make sure that first one is nice and tight. Put your thumb right there or your finger. Keep the flat side of your half round against the square wires. It's only uncomfortable for these first few wraps while you're deep in the neck here, and then it gets more comfortable. You can do overhand or underhand. I'm just managing my half round as I go, keeping the flat side against my bail wires, and I'm keeping my two bail wires side by side. So I'll wrap for 1.25 inches. That's probably about 20 or 25 wraps. So there's 5, 6, might be a little more, 7, 8. Then I'll tap to make sure they're nice and side by side. And then I'll keep going for my distance until I get my 1.25 inches. And that's about 35 or so wraps. You should have a few inches still left on your half round once you get there. I might be actually a few shy still, so that's fine. And you don't have to go for 1.25 inches. If you want a little shorter bail, you can do that as well and just go for 1 inch. All right. Okay, this is the back, this is the front. We've just wrapped up our bail wires. From here we can go ahead and part these design wires, 2 to each side. I like to hold the neck while I do this because these are hard bends against the neck. So just part them and bring them down to horizontal. While you're at it, you can bring this guy back up to vertical. And you can leave a slight slant. So I'm looking at the front of the pendant. Right here in the middle of this, I'm just going to bend the wire to create a loop for my bail. I want my wraps and the neck wraps to meet up when it comes down. So I'll just bring these straight down to the back side of my pendant, just holding the leading wires, and I'll make those wraps live right there at the base of the neck where I can wrap all the way around the neck again. Okay, so just like that, and then I'll continue with my half round all the way around the whole thing, going in the same direction that it was going, so the flat side is still up against the rest of it, and I'll just go around 2 or 3 times. That's all that's needed, and I'll just wrap over everything. And then when I get 2 or 3 wraps, squeeze it nice and tight. You can lift these slightly, and you can end these by doing a couple of wraps around those wires there. And I'll just end this by cutting it with a little bit of an overlap so that I can turn this down and tuck it underneath these wires. Okay, and you can lay those right back down. I like to hang on to these in case I want to do some more design. Come to the front, and then you can just do some little touch-ups to your bail wires if you need to. Hopefully yours didn't go weird like mine, but if it did, you can just touch it up. Make sure you're standing nice and upright with the bail. You got a nice side profile, and make sure that your wires didn't move off your stone. Okay, so you should look just about like that. We'll start with the two back wires here. We're going to make design loops that go up and over and towards the inside. So I'm going to bring this back loop up, the back wire up. Just hold it right there. Make it about this, just a little bit shorter than your bail. Put a curve in it and use your thumb to bring it down along the face of your pendant, right along the edge like that. Okay? And then we'll do the same to the other one. On the opposite side, take the one from the back, raise it up. They don't have to be the same. One can be slightly shorter or taller than the other. Just make sure you don't interfere with the bail. Once you get your loop, hold the leading wire and just use your thumb and push it into the center of your pendant so that this wire comes down nice along the front face of your pendant. Get a wide plier or use your chain nose and just give a slight squeeze once you get it landed, and tighten up that loop. Slight squeeze, don't squish it all the way closed. Okay, so we've got nice lines that go down the front here just like this. I'm going to follow this line. I'm going to dive into that space right there that I've left. I've got my two back wires and I'll just, leave them center, but I'm going to jump into the right or to the left of them. Okay, so I'll bring this wire down. I'll make sure it's just to the front face of my pendant. Get a nice curve on it right here. Nice elegance. And then right about here, I'll just turn the bottom of my wire, give it a nice long easy turn, and come through your frame just to this side of those center wires. Push it back down into place and just shape it before you commit any bends in the bottom. Just shape it. Should run just along the top side of your stone like that. You can hold it right there. And right there at the edge of your stone, just push. And then you can turn it this way slightly. So it looks kind of like that. Okay. Repeat with this side. Just bring this down. Get a nice curve on it. Right there. Bend the end of the wire. Push it through. Make sure it comes through to this side of those two wires. Gently put it back down. Get it into place. And then when you're ready, push to commit that bend and turn it out. Just like that. And then we can do kind of a repeat with these other two. But before we do, let's go ahead and get rid of these wires. There's a little tiny space. It's kind of tight, but you can do it. Cut this down so that you can make a nice, easy turn. Hold the front of the wire. Don't push, don't pull. Just brace and make a bend in that wire. Get behind it and get in front of it with your plier. and then close it in on itself. It's a little bit hard to see, but it's just kind of invisible there. Then we'll repeat with this side, make sure it's landed all nice. Then cut the excess off and leave yourself a couple of millimeters there. Take it with a fine plier, don't push, don't pull, don't alter the space of the wire in front, just bend that one enough so that you can get to the top and bottom of it, and then close it in on itself and lock it into place. And you shouldn't be able to see that in the front at all. All right, so let's go back up here to the top. We'll make some little adjustments. We'll close this up now that we're all locked in at the bottom. Close it up a little bit more. Take some of those bends out if you want to, and we'll alter them a little bit later. So now with these, push back slightly. We'll go a little bit lower than that first one. So get your thumb on it, your finger on it. Make a turn. Get your thumb on it and push the turn down and pull out slightly so you have just this little, turn over the last turn. And just keep it out here to the side like that. Get this one caught up with it. Get on the same plane and just do a little turn and push with your finger. And then push down with your thumb so that you get this little kind of scalloping going on up here. Keep your leading wires nice and straight. Let's get a nice wide plier. Now we'll hold the leading wire and then just get on the back and front of this wire. Make sure not to scuff if you can. Whoop, like I just did. A little sanding now. Just give a little push to close up those bends a little bit, or get to the very back of your pendant and get on top of it here. Give a little push if you need to. I got a little sanding there now to do. Let me just try to get it while I'm here because it's going to bother me. Got 2000 grit sanding pad. Just ordered these to see if the bigger ones will last longer, and they appear to, so I think I'm going to go to this size from now on. Anyway, so got my little scuff off the wire, so you should be like this. Now just to get these out of our way, since we're coming through that same space, you can part one to the left and one to the right. And then these right here, hold at the neck once you get a neckline that you like and it's nice and close to the pendant. They're not protruding too much. And just shape these wires so that they slant down nicely along your stone. You can bring them off to the side. Hold it right there at your curve and help make a little curve in it like that. So it's a little bit kind of coming down a little bit right here and protruding out just a little bit. I want that curve to live out there a little bit. So when I bend this wire, I'm not going to pull it too tight on to the inside. So bend the tip, get through that space, land your curve. Make sure you're nice and flush with the front, that you got a nice elegant line along here. Don't leave it too far out there, but leave it a little far out there. And then when you get it, make sure you don't lose that space and bend that wire around the bottom there, just below the first one, and commit to that curve. That one gets in the way, just pull it up and out of the way. When you have it, get a plier to the front and back of that wire. Get a little squeeze on it. Don't kill it. Just get a little squeeze on it. Okay, so you have just a little bump out there. Little elegant curve. that rides down your pendant. Then we'll shape this other one. Nice and elegant. Let it curve out slightly. Just use your fingers gently and delicately and shape a nice curve that you like. That looks elegant to you, and that's good for me there. So I'll bend this forward carefully, bend the tip. I'm going to gently put it through there. Guide the wire back down into place. You're watching the elegance of that curve, making sure that things lay down nice and flat. Making sure that this line is nice before you dedicate the bend. Okay, and that's good there. So I'm going to make sure I keep that little space, and I'm going to carefully guide this wire around to the back and dedicate a hard bend to it. Then I'll just manipulate these into elegance with my fingers. And I have this beautiful sloping design. Just move this back wire up and back to center, back to center. And then the two wires I just turned are right here. And I have just enough space beside them to do the same thing. Cut and tuck. It's going to be tighter, but you can do it. And it doesn't really need to tuck inward more than it needs to just lay down and hook. So right there, and without pushing or without pulling, I'll just give a turn down. And then make sure that edge is to the inside. It didn't change my curve. I'm happy about that. Get to this side, make sure you got a nice turn on it and there. Cut that with just a little space. Don't push, don't pull. Just curve that wire and bend it, and then get on top of it, and the other, get on top and below it and squeeze it closed. Okay? Then you can come back here and just kind of fiddle these wires so that it lays nicely down the side. It's kind of like opening up here at the breast of the pendant. Just shape these long, elegant wires with your fingers. Don't make any drastic moves, and just make sure that they stay level. This one can have a little slight downward turn to it, so it kind of stays nice into the side there. Okay. Don't make any drastic moves with pliers. Just use fingers and, help turn things here and there. If you have to use your plier, go real gently. Or if, you can tape the insides of your pliers, and then you can have a little padding. I'm just shaping these wires with my fingers. Just kind of an elegant, sleek look. Just like that. And now with these back two wires, you don't really need them to keep the stone in place, because it's in place with, the back wires here and the side wires in the front. So these can be used for additional design if you want. And if you want, you can turn them out and flip them to the front for even another layer, or do some curly work. If you don't want them, you can clip them real short and just, curl them into this little space right there and make a nice clean ending. So, but if you do want, or we can try it, and then if we don't like it, we can cut them back. So I just parted them side by side. Get a nice horizontal part. Kind of bring it to the front here. Raise it up slightly. Get it nice and close with your thumb, right there at the edge. and stay below that first curve, but you can repeat. Make your curve and then use your thumb to help push it back. So you just end up with this little bit here. And you can use your fingers and help that to lay down on your stone. We can do some other work with this to the back here in a second. We don't need to bring it to the front. So from here, same thing, bring it to the side front, raise it up a little bit, and then just use your finger, the pad of your finger, to create a little curve, and then push the curve in. And you can just manipulate that with your fingers. Get a nice sharp little curve there that looks cute to you. Raise it a little bit. Flat to the front of the pendant. Okay. If you need to get your pliers on it and give a little squeeze to the shoulders here, if you didn't get that turn sharp enough, you can just hold it here in the front and just gently squeeze these shoulder blades a little bit, little at a time. Look at it. Is it good? If it's good, then just go on. And if it needs to squeeze a little more, then you squeeze it a little more. Keep these close to the top here. Make sure that everything stays front and forward. You don't need to bring these down onto the body. You can bring them, just flip them back to the back and keep that little curl in the front there. So just hold that and just make a 90-degree turn straight back. So it looks like this from the front. Super cute, super clean. From back here, we can end the wire. We'll have to do a little tie right here at the shoulder blades, but that's okay. We can do that. We'll cut it just, to the other side of the stone, so you have enough to curl up a little bit. This should be flat against the side, so hold on to that. You can take a chain nose and just make a little turn in the very tip of this wire and face it towards that other wire so that it's not poking out. We'll put a little tie between these two here in a second. If you can't get that turn, just try to make it turn up and make sure the point faces in so that you don't wreck this. Okay? Or turn it down if you don't have enough space to go up. The alternate way is here, and I'll do it maybe this way. It gives us some more space. Just make a turn down. I don't like to flip behind this one because it makes too much bulk. I'd rather turn it down, give it a little curl, and tie them together. Okay, so you can do it however you want. Just make sure that it stays, nice up front here, the way you want. Don't let these moves alter the sides too much. You're always looking to make sure the sides stay nice. Okay, and that's pretty good there. So now I'll go to this side, make sure that your curve is, center. Hold it and just make a nice tight turn to the back. Get even with the other one where you think you can tie them together. Make sure that they look similar and that you're happy with them. We can put a little ball tie there in a minute too. And then I'm just going to cut this with enough length that I can turn it down next to the other one. Maybe give yourself more length if you need than me. I'm just going to make a turn and lay it right down next to the other one. Make sure that these curves, point to the inside and that you can't feel them. Look to the front and make sure this looks the way you want it to, and that's beautiful up there. So I'll get a few ties. I'll use 26 gauge wire. So I have 6 inches of 26 gauge wire, and I have a 3mm round ball. You can use 3, you can use 2, whatever fits on yours nicely. And that's going to fit really nicely right there, and it's going to help tie these two together. Before I tie the backs, I'm going to make sure I get the front together. And before I tie anything, I'm going to take my nylon jaw and help lay these wires down. Make sure you got the front and back of the wire and give the most gentle squeeze if you need to. If you don't, then don't. And we'll worry about adjusting the back more after we get the front tied together. So I'll slip my wire into one end here. I'll get my bead fed into the middle. Just hold on to this end. And then I'll slip underneath this one so that the wires are both coming from underneath. Oop. Try to not twist up your 26 gauge as you're getting it started here. Just don't make any drastic moves until you get it in there. Just like that. And now you can use your two sides here and, tie onto the frame. I'm just going to make 3 or 4 wraps. Make my first one carefully so that it doesn't pull through. Hold everything and pull nicely from that side. So there's one tie, and I'll go ahead and get this side tied to make sure it doesn't shift. Make sure the ties are nice and level, that those two wires are together the way you want them to be. And then for decorative sakes, you can make 3 or 4 more ties. And I also try to get the wire right below it. So you see how I'm actually going into this one to make this next wrap so that, so that it's tied all together. You'll have to work these little ties. There's a slight slant right here, so you saw me scooch it there with my plier so that it's nice and neat. But I am actually also underneath the wire below it, so you can see that. I'll make another wrap where I get both of them. Just work with patience. So you can see I've got that next tie around the top one and the one below it. And I'll just scooch the wires close together so they look nice. And that's probably all that you need. You can do more if you would like to do more, but I'll just whittle the wire away underneath here. But before I do, I'll get this side nice and caught up. Make sure that first tie is tight. Get the second one underneath both of the frame wires. Help it land next to it there. And then you can wrap one more to get 3. But come through both of them so you get a complete 360 around those 2 frame wires together. Whoop! Don't smack yourself in the head with the plier. So once you get those wrapped up the way you like them and they look nice, just like that, you can go ahead and break away the wires from the side, hold everything, and just do nice big round circles until it breaks. Just give slight tension. Don't pull your frame out of shape. But just do nice big circles until the wire breaks off, nice and clean. So then you have a cute ball there. And now let's go to the back and we can tie these off so that they stay put. And I'll just use a 6-inch or so piece of 26, or you can use half round, whatever you want. And these will be easy to tie. Just get underneath both of them. I say they'll be easy to tie. Make sure you can get underneath both of them, get them kind of positioned so that you can tie them. Make sure you didn't alter anything in the front. You could leave yourself more room than I did here. Maybe not cut them so short, so we could have made a better loop. But I'll feed a couple of inches through here, so I've got this, I'm going to hold it. I'll use this side and I'll just make 2 or 3 nice wraps around both of these. To get them together. Yeah, definitely don't cut them as short as I cut them. So I've got a couple of nice ties, and now with each of these fragments, since they're smaller than this big wire, now I can attach it, you know, down to the frame by getting underneath here. And I'll make just a couple of wraps. Don't pull yourself out of shape. Just a couple of them. Just like that. And then the same thing. Hold it all steady right there. Give a little tension and make big circles until that breaks off. Nice and clean. Do the same with this side. Make sure it's all nice and tight. And then you can wrap around. This wire. If you don't have space, you can just make a little space. Gently, everything is gently. Hold all that together and wrap it right there tight a couple of times to end this wire cleanly. Put your finger right there, hold it, give a little tension and make big circles until it breaks. Look at the front and make sure that everything stayed beautiful, and it did. And now if you can't feel those, great. If you can, then take a little sandpaper or something to them and try to delicately turn these tips down. This, I don't even feel this, so this is good for me. If you have trouble doing this because you cut them too short, then tie them here together. This frame wire and then this one. Right here at this crisscross and crisscross. Or, watch this ahead, hopefully, and you give yourself a little more space so that you could have made more of a little loop right there. Give enough to make a little loop on each side. Like, so that you have little turnouts there that don't let go. All right, no big deal. Beautifully done and elegant, and it'll be gorgeous once it's all patinaed up. And you can just give love taps here and there if you need to. Do any kind of sanding with a fine sandpaper if you have tool marks you need to get off. Should be beautiful. And then, if you want to stick a ball down there, you can. You patina this, you can. You've got plenty of room for a chain, and enjoy it. All right, you guys, I hope you loved that. It was simple. It's a beautiful design. It's another what I would call bread and butter design. You can make them quickly. It's not complicated. It's elegant, and should be a pretty good seller for stones that have a lot of flash. So now we can go through and burnish. We've got long stretches of design wire here. So to keep them hard, I like to get my round nose plier to harden them up. Make sure they look nice and that they're elegant, and make sure you don't have any chips, that this is nice, clean, round metal. And just burnish these upper wires. Just rub metal on metal. You can kind of see that it's getting a little shiny as I rub it. I'm not creating scratches. I'm burnishing the metal. I'm making sure that the tips of my pliers and these sharp tips don't scratch the wire. I'm just rubbing metal on metal over this uppermost wire because it's a long stretch of wire. So I'm going to harden it up a little bit. You could also wrap these, we could have twisted them coming down. Lots of different ideas. You didn't just have to keep them straight. These could be round wires, like I said in the beginning. You can do this entire wrap in round wire. You're making sure that the side wire isn't truly down the side of your stone. You got a nice seat for the back. Everything is super clean. Your elegance looks the way you want it to. And you've gone through and hardened these upper wires so that they don't shift, and that you've got nice lines. Now you can patina, polish, or just enjoy it as is. Clean, give it a nice wash with soap and water, and it'll be beautiful. If you feel like you need to tweak anything up here, like I might need to squeeze the back of these shoulder blades a little bit closer together. See how that changed the profile a little bit? Slightly. Okay, just little moves at a time, you guys. All right, she's beautiful, and I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you always for being here with me and creating beautiful things with me. I look forward to seeing you guys again, and if I haven't told you enough times how much I love and appreciate you, then let me tell you again by saying I love and appreciate every one of you for being here and supporting my artwork and this channel. Please give me a thumbs up if you enjoyed your project, leave me comments, and certainly look me up on social media and let me see your beautiful pendant or project if you created one. All right, you guys, I'll talk to you later. Much love. We'll see you next time.